Are live. Good evening. My name is Alan Haley. I'm the Director of Development and Communications for Lawyers Committee for Better Housing. Welcome to tonight's edition of Tenant Thursdays, where we will be talking about the new city and state of Illinois eviction rental assistance prevention programs that are set up for both landlords and tenants. We are so happy tonight to have Tom Benedetto from the Chicagoland Apartment Association, where Tom is the Director of Government Affairs, as our guest. This is the first time we've had a landlord representative join us, and we are so excited because we think, especially now, that landlords and tenants should be working closely together so that landlords and tenants both can keep renters housed and keep properties stable. Our other guest tonight is Umair Nasir, Case Manager for Lawyers Committee for Better Housing, and Michelle Gilbert, LCBH's Legal Director. To get us started tonight, I'm just going to go clockwise. If Umair, if you would introduce yourself and let our viewers know who you are and what you do at LCBH.
Hi everyone, my name is Umair Nasir. I'm a case manager here at LCBH. What I mainly do is I help people apply for rental assistance with the different programs we have. So if we do an intake with you and you qualify for one of our programs, we'll work with you to make sure you apply and can get your application through, and then we'll make sure that anything else that is relevant to your case is communicated to you, and that's really the gist of it. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Umair. Tom?
Thanks, Alan. Yes, thanks everybody for having us here tonight. My name is Tom Benedetto. I'm the Government Affairs Director for the Chicagoland Apartment Association, known as CAA. We're a trade association and we represent, Illinois landlords. We're called the Chicagoland Apartment Association because most of our members are in the Chicagoland area, Chicago and Cook County, in the collar counties. We have a few thousand member companies, and a lot of them are property management companies that in some kind of collect or represent about 235,000 units throughout Chicagoland and the state of Illinois. So we do trading, networking events. We do advocacy. So we always are, in conversation with the Lawyers Committee. We just do great work in the city and the county and in Springfield, and just trying to figure out a way to advance more quality housing in Chicago and in Cook County and in the state. I feel like I always have to separate those three. Sorry, but thanks for having me here, and it's a pleasure.
Okay, Michelle.
I'm Michelle Gilbert, and I'm Legal and Policy Director at Lawyers Committee. And so I supervise a bunch of attorneys, and I work on policy issues, like Tom, City Council, County Board, and the Illinois General Assembly. But still, my favorite thing to do is that individual meeting with the tenant and letting the tenant know that we'll be able to help.
Great. So for folks who may be watching tonight on Facebook Live, please submit any questions you have in the comments section, and we will share those with Michelle, Tom, and Umair. And to get started, there's been a lot in the news in the past 2 weeks with both the state of Illinois rental assistance program and now the city of Chicago's program. Could you describe the relationship between the state and the city ERAP program? And could somebody apply to both of them? Michelle, if you want to start, and then Tom, you go next.
So the ERAP programs are funded through federal funds, and the federal formula apportions some of the money to the state and some to the city. There was a county program earlier too, the county for suburban Cook, got their portal open and is already closed for applications at this point. But people, so a resident of the city of Chicago can apply to both the city and to the state, and the city and state will be able to, no one will be able to get two grants. You know, if the city or the state processes it first, they'll be able to check the other entity to make sure that, you know, that they aren't duplicating the checks, but people can apply to both.
Yeah, just piggybacking on that, I think, you know, if you are, especially in the city of Chicago, I think you have the most flexibility, obviously now. The Cook County portal, as Michelle mentioned, that ship has kind of sailed for now, at least, I think. And then, yeah, if you are outside of the city, even if you're in suburban Cook, it doesn't mean that you can't not apply for the statewide program.
And when we're talking about applying to these programs, who exactly is eligible to apply and to receive the financial assistance? Tom, do you want to start with that?
Sure. So there are a number of eligibility requirements for when it comes to the tenant in terms of their income level, whether or not they've experienced a COVID hardship, and there's a few other requirements as well. But I believe as of right now, both parties can initiate the process, but I think it varies a little bit by whether you're applying to the city program and the state program. Michelle, do you want to, or Omer, do you want to talk a little bit about the eligibility requirements and what they are? I know there was different income levels, et cetera.
Yeah, sure. So for the Illinois one and the city one, they can differ. So right now for the state program through IDA, it is just the landlords that can initiate the application up until June 7th. And I think June 9th is when tenants can start initiating that application. But for the Illinois one, you need to have at least 30 days worth of rent arrearage to apply. For the city one, you don't need to have arrearage because they can pay going forward as well. So yeah, there are a lot of different eligibility requirements, but the main thing is that you need to have faced a COVID-19 hardship, whether you lost your job through the lockdown or your hours were cut or you're immunocompromised, maybe your children, they can't go to daycare anymore, so you have to stay home with them. So all those count. And also if you are at risk for losing basically being homeless or being evicted, but you do need to be facing a COVID-19 hardship for either program. Oh, and one more thing, I'm so sorry. You cannot be making more than the median area income for your area as well.
Yeah, the economic standard is pretty high, the 80% of area median income. So you know, I was just going to point out that there's a lot of information available on the IDA website and on the Chicago website. And we'll be putting the links to those websites in the Facebook comment in a little bit. And so if people want to check specifically, they can, you know, there's lots of information available that people can check exactly how their income compares. And I was just going to say, one thing that is important is that it just matters where the property is. So like if your landlord lives out in the suburbs, or maybe it is, you know, in another state, the landlord can still apply to the Illinois program. What matters is where the property is actually located. I mean, that seems to make sense, but I know that people have questions about that.
So I wonder if Michelle or Tom, one of you could elaborate some on the IDA program and the landlord being the person who starts the application? What documents does the landlord or the housing provider need to provide?
Sure. So in terms of required documentation, you're going to want to have several different, financial related documentation available. So either a copy of your property tax bill or a mortgage statement from this year. And then you want to have, obviously like your bank information on hand, your social security number, and then your employer identification number too. So just a lot of different, qualifiers. And then of course a valid email address, which will be very important. And to be checking your junk mail as much as possible during that time. So those are really, the basic things. And then when it comes to the actual property and the tenancy, you do want to have a signed lease if that's available. It's not required for the Chicago rental assistance program. It is, I think, required / desired for the state program.
Yeah, no, they say they want it if you have one. Because I know they did require a lease with the program in 2020. And, a lot of people don't have a lease or where we're at now, this point in the pandemic, a lot of people don't have a current lease. Their lease may have expired last fall and nobody knows what's happening. So leases weren't renewed, but it is the way Ida wrote it is kind of funny, but definitely if you don't feel like you can't apply, if you don't have a current lease, you should definitely still apply because Ida is not going to require a current lease.
True.
The other thing I want to jump in and say, I think it's important, if people are listening, if they have any questions about this, how much this can help. The Ida limit on how much they will make in a grant is $25,000, which is a lot of money. And the city isn't putting an upper limit at all. I mean, this should be enough money that will cover the rent rearage. So, again, if you looked into the program in 2020, or even if you got assistance in 2020, the program is not a flat amount. So in 2020, Ida did everyone $5,000. But this year, they're going to look at what the actual amount owed is. They're going to be able to pay that amount plus 3 months going forward. So, this is a really good chunk of money and hopefully really will lead to the housing stability that we all really care about.
Very true. It's ideal for everybody involved, everybody who wants to be whole, wants to be back to normal, wants to not have an outstanding balance anymore or live under that, just cloud of what's going to happen. Stability is definitely the key word there, Michelle. And I think if, either the apartment association or the lawyers committee, were to hope for something months and months back, this would be it.
Right.
So now we're just hoping everybody gets an application in.
Yeah, and one reason why I invited Tom, Tom and I've worked on several projects before, but one reason why I really wanted to invite someone from the apartment association is, and this is a critical time for landlords and tenants to work together. And I know that whenever I participated in any sort of any webinars or whatever, one of the main questions that's asked is, what if my landlord doesn't want to participate? What if my tenant doesn't want to participate? And I just want to make sure, I want to say to any tenants, if you're listening to this, that if your landlord has made the application, I cannot encourage you strongly enough that you need to follow up with the application. If there are language issues or technology issues, or you're afraid of the legal ramifications, there are community organizations that can answer questions. Lawyers Committee, definitely, if any tenant is saying, hey, I got this email, I don't know if I should do this application, please call us and we will answer any questions that you have about it. There's no reason not to do it. To be very clear, there's no citizenship requirement. None of the information will get reported to any other government agency. And for the tenant, there are no tax implications. It will not be counted as income. So really, I cannot think of any reason why a tenant wouldn't want to do this. It doesn't give up any rights that you have.
Umair,
I was sort of bursting to say that.
well, thank you. I was going to ask you, Michelle, or Tom, if a tenant is watching this and thinking, well, this sounds too good to be true, what's the catch? Or I'm nervous about going through with it. I think you've addressed that this really is beneficial to tenants and landlords. Umair, since we're talking about tenants and tenant expectations, could you elaborate on what documents or information a tenant who is applying for one of these programs needs to be ready to provide?
Yeah, so a tenant, you should probably have like a proof of ID, anything that shows where you live. It's like a piece of mail that shows your proof of address. Any documentation of your rent arrearage, you can probably get that from your landlord or your management company, depending, wherever you pay your rent. They'll probably have some kind of documentation that shows how much you owe. Another thing you'd probably need is your proof of household income. Now, if you're on unemployment or you're receiving some kind of benefits and that's your income, you can also show that as your proof of income as well. And also just a valid email address as well, because if it's all done online, regardless of who initiates the application, your part of the application is going to come to you online. So just make sure you have those ready. And if you're wanting to pay like a utility bill, I believe they do offer to try and cover some of your utility costs. You would just have to show proof of that bill.
Yeah, and it's the city of Chicago that's covering the utilities, not the, IDA is referring people to the, I can't think of the name of it.
Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. I got you.
Thank you.
Is that the LIHEAP program?
LIHEAP.
Okay. Well, my next question was going to be, will these programs pay for utilities? So thank you for answering that one. And so question for the panel, if you have a subsidy or voucher, are you eligible to apply for one of these programs?
So people with a subsidy would be able to apply to the City of Chicago program. Obviously, it's not, they're only going to consider, say if you have a voucher, the city's only going to consider the tenant portion. The rest of it is paid through the voucher. But the City of Chicago is considering that now, and IDA is thinking about doing that for the next round of funding, but not yet.
So I'm a landlord or a tenant and I've applied. Is it possible for me to check on the status of the application?
Yes, you when you do initiate the application and have you'll create a login credential, then you will be able to go back into the portal and check the status, just like tracking your packages, which is a really good and common sense addition to this round of funding that was not present in the first round. So if you were hesitant to do it the first round, again, no reason now to apply this round. You can check it as it is processed in real time, which is a very positive and transparent thing for a program like this to have. Got you on mute, Alan. Sorry.
Sorry, thank you, Tom. Could a tenant be evicted while waiting for their application to process?
So I would say that if a tenant is worried about an eviction case, that they should definitely talk to an attorney. Again, we would refer people to the Cook County Legal Aid for Housing and Debt, or they can contact LCBH directly, because you're going to want to talk about the individual circumstances of any case. There is still a moratorium on actually executing eviction orders, and so unless a judge has made a finding that the tenant is a risk to health and safety at the property, the eviction orders aren't being executed. But anyone who has an eviction court case pending should talk to an attorney about the specific facts of their case.
Are tenants eligible if they've received assistance in the past?
Yeah, they can still apply for. Can you guys hear me? I'm so sorry. My microphone is not working properly. Okay, yes. So tenants can still, like, if you received assistance in the past, you can still apply. However, you can only apply to cover a rent that's accrued for 2021. So if you like received assistance in like October, November of 2020, and you still need December of 2020 covered, they would not be able to cover you for December. They would have to cover you for this year's rent.
And then, don't forget too that you can apply for the future or potential arrearage or future rent too, despite not being able to go back into 2020 if you have before. So that's a positive thing.
That is such a great note to make about this and why it's can be so impactful for tenants and landlords. Somewhat related question, and Tom, you may be the best to answer this one. Is there a limit to how many applications a housing provider can submit to the Illinois rental payment program?
There's not at all a limit. You can actually, not only is there no limit, you can bulk upload information about your tenants or your properties into the system so that it's easier to actually facilitate the process for you or for anybody who is managing that process. They've made it, very efficient on that side of things if you have multiple applications.
I'm sure these programs have different deadlines. What are the important deadlines to know about for maybe start with the state of Illinois program?
So the state of Illinois program, which opened first, has been open since May 17th. The deadline for a landlord to initiate an application is June 7th. So about another week to go for that. And then the deadline for the tenant to finish up that landlord initiated application is Sunday, June 13th. For the city, the deadline is Tuesday, June 8th for city residents to use the city portal. So, these are, you're not going to want to sit on these deadlines. In fact, Tom and I were at a meeting today, and Ida said that, they already have a lot of completed applications. They're already processing them. And as soon as it's approved, they will start sending checks out. So, I'm pretty excited. Like Tom said, this is what we have been hoping for, this rental assistance to bring this housing stability. And, today is at this point of the pandemic is a very hopeful time. And I'm very hopeful that we do not see the flood of evictions that we've been worried about.
And I appreciate Michelle having those deadlines on hand. I don't have them on hand, but it's not even important because if you're watching this, you're going to do it this weekend. It's that easy. I know you're going to do it this weekend because you should.
What can you do if you are not good with computers and need help on the application?
So the city of Chicago, actually, you can call their helpline and you can schedule like an in-person intake. So they'll list you a bunch of places where they're doing that, and you can go in and you can just do an in-person one and apply with a case worker there.
And IDA has a helpline as well, and also has a wide range of housing stability service providers. I think is the titles for the organization. And again, I think we'll be able to share a link to that page of, it's really balanced. There are people statewide, people with different language capacity that can help with the applications.
And I think more informally too, let's face it, it's in everybody's best interest to get this application done. It's not one person, whether they're bad at technology, shouldn't be doing it on their own and their landlord doing it separately on, their laptop. Everyone should, be in contact with each other. If you feel like your tenant may be having difficulties or you foresee they might have difficulties, there's no hurt in reaching out to say, here's the required information that you're going to need on your side of the application. Here's a copy of the lease that you can attach to an email. Being proactive like that is going to circumvent any kind of technical issues right off the bat. And so we don't even need to use a call center if we work together like that. But it is nice that it's available, and good pointing there.
Well,
Yeah, no, and I was just to say, I know it. You hear, you say call center, and people think like, oh no, I'm going to call and I'm going to be on hold. We actually just this afternoon, one of our attorneys had a couple of questions. Called at 4:30, got straight through, talked to somebody, and got answers to the questions. So don't anyone think, oh, I shouldn't call, it's a call center, I will be on hold forever. Because I think that they've really got it staffed up. It's for a short time, so they could really focus a lot of staff on doing this.
Well, I think we've reached the end of our questions. Are there any final points that Michelle or Mary, you would like to make for tenants, or Tom for landlords, or anyone else who might be watching?
Well, I'll just say that, let's say if you were working with somebody in supportive services, such as myself, and you need help with the application or like any of the applications, you can also reach out to us as a resource, and we'll also walk you through it and help you with whatever documentation or whatever's confusing to you. So feel free to reach out to whichever caseworker you're working with at the time as well, if you need help with an application.
That's great. I would just like to add to Alan and thank you again for having me, Michelle and Umair and Alan, and the Lawyers Community for Better Housing, that this year and change has been just horrendous. So this, if this program looks too good to be true for you, it's because the last year and change was too bad to be true. I mean, this is will offset a lot of the pain and suffering and instability that we've been experiencing on both sides of the housing equation. And now is the time to just take that half hour or so to fill out this application, work with your tenant if you're a landlord, work with your landlord if you're a tenant, despite your past differences in this last year. horrible situation can define us as people, and so we should work together as people to get through and see the summer of 2021 with a new lens.
Well said, Tom, and we are so grateful to you for participating tonight. We hope that we can do more of these conversations with you in the future. And Michelle and Umair, thank you both. And with that, we will call tonight's Tenant Thursday a wrap, and look forward to working with each of you in the future. So, good night, everyone.
Good night.